Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Muddy River Catfishing. Recently I've had you guys asking me about fishing in a stock pond or in a man-made lake that's normally stocked, or they have feeders. One of the viewers was asking me about a pond that they fish that has a time feeder that feeds the fish. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about dough baits. I recommend dough baits for these kind of scenarios, and I'll explain to you why. But a basic dough bait, it's real easy to make. Just a few household ingredients, and you make your own bait and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll explain to you what I do with the bait that makes it more appealing to the fish depending on where you're fishing. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so one of the additives that I'm going to be using today is this Fat Cat fish food. I picked that up at the local feed store, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that to my dough. And the reason for that is a catfish, it's like any animal. It gets used to certain foods or certain times of the day. So if you're fishing an area that's feeding the fish with a timer, they already know. They're trained to go to that spot. They know what time the feeder's going to go off, and they know it'll be ready to feed them. They'll be ready to eat. So get you some of the food that's actually in the feeder, mix it into a dough bait, and I'd say get there, half an hour before the feeder goes off and start fishing. And you'll probably be catching something. Another additive that I use in the pond that I go to is just regular popcorn. It pays to just watch and see what's going on at the local pond that you go to. A lot of people go there to feed the ducks, and if the ducks are eating bread or popcorn, chances are the fish are going to be eating the same thing. So, and it's a little difficult to fish with popcorn, and I've done it before. But what I do is I just make the popcorn, put it in the blender, grind it up to a fine powder almost, and mix it into a dough bait. We're going to do the same thing with this Fat Cat fish food. Mix it up, add it to a dough bait, and you're going to have something that the fish are familiar with, that they're probably going to be more likely to feed on than something that they're not used to. So if you haven't made dough bait before, stick around, and I'm going to make a simple dough bait, and we're going to add this stuff to it. So let's go ahead and get going on that. Alright, so we got our ingredients set up here. In this bowl I've got 1.5 cups of hot water, or warm water anyways, and we're going to add these little quarter packets of highly active yeast to it. And this is just a pizza dough is what it is. So we add the yeast. It's just a basic pizza dough recipe. It says to let this sit for about 5 minutes. So while we do that, we're going to chop up our catfish feed in the blender. My goal is to get it as powdery as I can. What I want to do is substitute this for some of the flour try to make a 50% mixture. So while that's setting, the recipe calls for 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1/4 cup of vegetable oil or olive oil. Now, depending on where you're fishing and what you want to do, you can modify these ingredients to work for you. The salt, instead of regular table salt, you could add garlic salt to give it the flavor, or you can even add a little garlic powder to the mix. The olive oil or the vegetable oil that you're going to use, you can do the trick that I do with the sardines and take the little package that I buy of sardines and olive oil, and use the olive oil from the sardines to add that fish flavor to this. But I'm not going in that direction with this. What I want is this to be as close to what the fish are used to eating as possible. So I'm going to keep these basic ingredients just to make a dough, and then I'm going to add the catfish food to it. Like I said, the catfish, they get used to eating whatever's thrown in that water constantly. If they're fed fish farm food like this, or if they're fed bread and popcorn on a daily basis, try using those as baits. And then also get creative, like I'm telling you, maybe some garlic powder, garlic salt, and some sardine oil mixed in with your bait. So we're gonna let this set for a couple more minutes, and then we'll mix all this stuff together. Alright guys, so it's been about 5 minutes. We've let the yeast sit here in the water. I went ahead and measured out the catfish food to 2 cups. Like I said, the recipe does call for 4 cups of sugar. I'm sorry, 4 cups of flour, but I'm gonna go 50-50, and hopefully that'll be enough to give us the consistency we want in this dough. So 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of our catfish food. So we're gonna add the salt, the sugar, and the oil. And whisk it up. Okay, then we add our flour, and our catfish food. And we mix that together. Just start mixing it up with your hands. There's no real science to this. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that make their own dough bait, and they have all the ingredients. So you just play this stuff by ear. If it needs a little more water or something to make it a little stickier, Add a little bit. Just mess with it until you get to where you like it. This seems to be coming in all right. You're starting to get a nice sticky dough. See how that is? That stuff should stick to a hook pretty good. What I like to do with my dough bait is keep it in a plastic Ziploc bag. The plastic allows moisture to build up inside the bag, so it'll keep the bait moist for you. And if it's too moist, then you just open it up, take it out and expose it to the sun, and the sun will dry it out for you. So just an idea for you guys. Alright, so there's our dough bait. Use your judgment. I'm going to set this in this bowl here. But use your judgment as far as the consistency. Work it to the consistency that you like. This one actually came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty sticky. Looks like it'll do the job. I'm going to cover this with a piece of saran wrap and let it sit for a while, and it should be good to go. So whenever you guys are doing some pond fishing, just like I said, keep in mind what are the fish eating, and that goes not only for pond fishing but fishing in general. You get out there and you're fishing for catfish in a river or in a lake, you got to know what they're eating. Are they eating frogs? Are they eating grasshoppers? Are they eating shad? What are they feeding on at that time? Different times of year, they're going to be eating different things, you know. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's going on, and use it to your advantage to catch more catfish. So hopefully these tips will help you out, and let me know if this stuff works for you guys. Like I said, don't forget, popcorn works great. I've tried it before. I've caught lots of catfish and carp on it. If you guys are carp fishermen, I've seen those guys go after popcorn right on the top of water, and then I'll throw one of those dough balls in there and they go for it. So leave me some comments, let me know how it worked for you guys, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.